Hey everybody, I wanted to jump on here real quick because the Lord has just quickened my spirit with the season we are walking in. And I'm sorry I have to have notes, so if you see me looking down, it's because I don't want to leave out anything. But right now we are all facing the enemy at our doors, trying to come in and destroy what we as believers has worked so hard to stand for. I know in my own self I've had to deal with physical attacks and mental attacks of the enemy. So after receiving a phone call today and going into prayer, the Lord said these 4 words to me: "For I am God." And in my spirit, I was immediately sensing the authority of God, reminding me that He is in control. A lot of times it may seem, by watching on social media or the news, it may seem like COVID is in control, or it may even seem like the government is in control of how we're supposed to live our lives. Or it may even seem to you that the enemy has control of the playing field. But He was quick to say to me, "I am God. Why do you think I am so little? And these problems that surround us are so big. For I am God. I created everything that you see. Am I not bigger than the trials that you face?" And I want to go on to what the Lord showed me another time. It did not really make sense until today. And I was walking the church grounds praying along our property, as I do at times. And I was behind our property of our church, there's a fence line. And along that fence line, there are some pretty good sized trees. And then there are some small trees. And there's a whole lot of gaps in between. And you're probably thinking, what in the world? Why are you telling me about trees? But I promise you it'll make sense in a minute. And as I was praying, the Lord showed me that those really big, long trees were the people that represented the pillars of the church, the long-time saved members of the church. And the young growth, of course, was the young converts that we have in our church. And the one thing that I noticed was that none of the young growth was around the large growth or the large trees. There just seemed like they were kind of separated. And then in amongst all of them were a whole lot of gaps where I could see the fence. And as I walked, there was a dead tree leaning over the fence onto the church property. And I noticed at first, it didn't really dawn on me, but then I noticed that dead tree was amongst the young converts. And I promise I am going somewhere with this. And as I was walking, the Lord showed me ruins all around me. And as I was praying and walking, I could just see rubble all around me. And this is what He said to me in my spirit: the seasons has changed. There's been a shift. Now we know we've all been walking in extremely unfamiliar time. None of us has had experience in where we are at right now. And the enemy tries to place fear in us, and he tries to cause separation among the church body. Those gaps that I talked about of seeing along the fence line. And the homes and marriages and so forth. The enemy has really tried to cause separation. The ruins that I was seeing, it was not like in Doomsday like you see on TV, but it was churches. It was ruins of churches, and that's what the Lord had showed me in my spirit. And I became very overwhelmed and heartbroken by seeing that churches were broken and separated, torn apart. And people, I can't stress enough on the importance of standing up right now for your homes, your marriages, your church, and even your pastor. I know for me, I am taking to fasting and prayer for the rest of this week, and I'll probably continue to do it until I feel in my spirit that I am done, that I don't need to do it no more. I never want to forget or have my church family forget that God said, "For I am God." He is in control. Don't lose sight. Don't feel defeated. Endure. Endure this season. Endure this struggle. Endure this shift. Don't quit. Don't stop praying. Don't feel like you're not worthy enough to make a difference, because it just might be you that fills that gap. I cannot express enough what my spirit is saying. Walk that wall as they did in Nehemiah. It says that they worked on that wall with a sword by their side to fight off the enemy in case they needed to fight. In Ephesians, we know that sword is the sword of truth. That is God's word. Now is the time to not become settled with this is just how it's going to be. It's not a time to settle. His promises still stand. The one word that I have always used, and if some of them probably know it if they're watching this, but the word I always use that the Lord gave us at the very beginning of this year was arise. And that word in the Noah Webster means to move to a higher place. Don't quit. Now is not the time to quit. I need everyone who is watching this video to pray. Don't give up. Stand in the gap for your church, for our pastor. We need every single person to stand up and pray and stand in the gap.